The great space station Concordia Prime floated like a massive metal city among the stars. Its lights twinkled against the black void as ships from dozens of different worlds arrived for an emergency meeting. The Galactic Council had not called such an urgent gathering in over 200 years. Ambassador Veltar stepped into the main chamber on his 6 insect-like legs. His shell gleamed under the artificial lights as he took his place at the speaker's platform. Around him sat representatives from across the galaxy. The Zephyrians looked like walking crystals that caught the light in beautiful patterns. Nethori appeared as glowing clouds of gas contained in clear suits. The Cathera clicked their mandibles nervously, their compound eyes reflecting the chamber's glow. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Veltar began, his voice carrying through the translation devices. "We face a new threat to our peaceful order." A hologram appeared above the platform showing star maps. Red dots marked human colonies that had appeared in the past 50 years. The expansion looked aggressive to alien eyes, with settlements spreading outward like a growing infection. "The humans," Veltar continued, "have violated the Outer Rim Accords. They have established illegal colonies in disputed space. Worse, they have ignored all diplomatic requests to cease their expansion." Murmurs filled the chamber. The humans were still considered newcomers to galactic civilization. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. Most species viewed them as primitive and barely worthy of notice. Council leader Thymos raised one of her 4 arms for silence. Her blue skin rippled with patterns that showed deep concern. "What response do you propose, Ambassador?" "A peacekeeping mission," Veltar replied. "A show of force to make them understand their place in the galactic order. 200 ships should be more than enough to convince them to withdraw from disputed territories." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives argued that humans might respond to negotiation. Others worried about setting a precedent of military action against newer species. But the majority agreed that humans needed to learn respect for galactic law. Representative Quinn of the Stellar Federation stood up. His metallic voice rang out clearly. "The humans have shown no respect for our established borders. They take what they want without asking permission. If we allow this behavior to continue, other young species might follow their example." More voices joined in agreement. The humans had indeed been pushy in their expansion. They seemed to think their rapid technological development gave them the right to claim any empty system they found. This could not be allowed to continue. Council leader Thymos called for a vote. "All in favor of dispatching a peacekeeping fleet to human space?" Lights around the chamber turned green as species after species voted yes. Only a few yellow lights showed abstentions. No red lights appeared for opposition. "The motion passes," Thymos announced. "Fleet Commander Thexani will lead the peacekeeping mission. The fleet will demand immediate withdrawal from all disputed territories. If the humans refuse, they will be removed by force." Light years away, in the outer edges of human space, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis. The massive ship drifted silently through the void, its dark hull absorbing starlight rather than reflecting it. Unlike the colorful, elegant ships favored by other species, the Nemesis looked brutal and functional. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Martinez from the communications station. "We're receiving intelligence reports from our assets near Concordia Prime." Chen turned away from the large viewport. She was a small woman with graying hair, but her eyes held the sharp focus of someone who had seen too much combat. "What do they say?" "The Galactic Council has voted to send a fleet against us. 200 ships, led by Fleet Commander Thexani, aboard the Eternal Dominion." Chen nodded slowly. They had been expecting this for months. Human expansion had been deliberately aggressive, designed to provoke exactly this response. "How long until they reach our border?" 72 hours, ma'am." Chen walked to her command chair and sat down. Around her, the bridge crew continued their work with quiet efficiency. These were not the bright, cheerful spaces shown in alien ships. The Nemesis bridge was dark, with red lighting that would not interfere with night vision. Every surface was designed for function over beauty. "Signal all civilian populations," Chen ordered. "Begin Phase 7 evacuation procedures. All non-essential personnel to underground shelters within 48 hours. "Yes, ma'am. What about the fleet?" Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Tell our ships to maintain normal patrol patterns. We don't want to appear aggressive." Lieutenant Martinez looked confused. "Ma'am, shouldn't we be gathering our forces?" "We are," Chen replied. "Right here." The lieutenant stared at her. The Nemesis was alone except for a few escort ships. How could one vessel stand against 200 alien warships? Chen saw his expression and her smile widened slightly. "Don't worry, Lieutenant. The aliens think they know what they're dealing with. They think humans are just another young species that got lucky with technology. They have no idea what we've really been doing out here in the dark." She turned back to the viewport where stars stretched into infinity. "They're about to learn that humans don't fight like other species. We don't build pretty ships for parades. We don't follow their rules about honorable combat. We build things that win." The Nemesis continued its silent patrol, waiting. Its cargo bays. Weapons sat ready that had never been tested in actual combat. Technologies that had been developed in secret for decades, hidden from the prying sensors of alien observers. The galaxy thought it knew humanity's capabilities based on the civilian ships and basic military vessels they had been allowed to see. They were wrong. Chen opened a secure channel to Earth's military command. "Admiral Chen to Central Command. The aliens have taken the bait. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. "Understood, Admiral," came the reply from General Morrison. "All civilian populations are moving to shelters. The press is reporting it as routine military exercises. Are you ready to proceed with Operation Revelation?" "We've been ready for 20 years, Chen replied. "The galaxy is about to learn why humans spent so long listening before we started. Talking." She closed the channel and looked around the bridge. Her crew was young but experienced. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. None of them showed fear, only determination. "All stations, report readiness," Chen ordered. "Weapon systems online and fully charged," reported the tactical officer. "Engineering reports all systems operating at optimal efficiency," called the chief engineer. "Communications array ready for wideband transmission," added Martinez. Chen nodded. "Then we wait. In 72 hours, the galaxy will discover that humanity has been playing a very long game. They think they're dealing with upstart colonists. They have no idea they're about to face a predator that has been watching them hunt for decades." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of advanced systems. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift forever. The Nemesis waited, and with it, the future of human civilization hung in the balance. Fleet Commander Thexani stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the blue swirls of faster-than-light travel fade as his fleet dropped back into normal space. 200 ships materialized around him in perfect formation. Cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels from a dozen different species, all united under the Galactic Council's banner. "Fleet status report," Thexani ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets for over 30 years. His tall, thin frame and pale blue skin marked him as a Viridian, a species known for their strategic thinking and diplomatic skills. "All ships report ready, Commander," replied his tactical officer. "Long-range sensors show human settlements in this system, but no major military presence detected." Thexani nodded. This was expected. The humans had shown no signs of mobilizing their forces, which suggested they understood the hopelessness of their position. His intelligence reports indicated that humanity possessed perhaps 50 military vessels, mostly converted civilian ships with basic weapons. Against his fleet of purpose-built warships, they would stand no chance. Open a channel to all human settlements and ships in this system, Thexani commanded. The communications officer worked quickly at his station. Channel open, sir. Thexani straightened his uniform and began the formal surrender demand. This is Fleet Commander Thexani of the Galactic Council Peacekeeping Force. By order of the Galactic Council, all human settlements in disputed territories must be evacuated immediately. You have 48 hours to begin withdrawal from all contested systems. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Around the galaxy, this same message had been used dozens of times with younger species. It was usually enough to avoid actual fighting. Respond with confirmation of compliance within 6 hours, or face the consequences. Thexani finished. He gestured for the channel to be closed. The bridge crew waited. This was always the tense moment. Would the humans see reason, or would they force a military solution? Thexani hoped for the former. Despite his harsh words, he preferred to resolve conflicts without bloodshed. 5 hours and 57 minutes later, they received a response. Sir, incoming transmission from human space, the communications officer reported. It's unusual. Put it through, Thexani ordered. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a woman with short gray hair and cold eyes. She wore a uniform that looked military but was unfamiliar to galactic databases. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Nemesis, the woman said calmly. You have 36 hours to withdraw from human space. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. Then, several officers began speaking at once. Did she just threaten us? 200 ships and she thinks she can give us warnings? These humans are either very brave or very stupid. Thexani raised a hand for silence. He was as shocked as his crew, but he had to maintain command authority. In 30 years of service, no single ship had ever issued threats to one of his fleets. Tactical? What do we know about this Nemesis? He asked. The tactical officer checked his screens. Long range. Sensors detect a single ship approaching from the outer system. It appears to be alone. Size estimates put it roughly equivalent to our heavy cruisers, but what? The sensor readings are inconsistent, sir. Our equipment keeps giving different measurements. Sometimes the ship appears larger, sometimes smaller. The energy signatures are also unusual. Thexani frowned. Sensor ghosts were common near certain types of stellar phenomena, but they were in open space. Are our sensors malfunctioning? All diagnostics show green, Commander. The ship itself seems to be causing the interference. This was interesting. The humans might have developed some kind of stealth technology. It would explain their confidence, though one ship with advanced sensors was hardly a threat to his entire fleet. Open a channel to the human vessel, Thexani ordered. When the connection was established, Admiral Chen appeared on screen again. She looked completely calm, as if facing down 200 warships was routine. Admiral Chen, Thexani began formally, I am Fleet Commander Thexani. Perhaps you misunderstood my earlier message. You are facing the combined fleet of the Galactic Council. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated according to galactic law. Chen's expression didn't change. Commander, perhaps you misunderstood my message. You have 36 hours to leave human space. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. Thexani felt his patience wearing thin. Admiral, I have 200 ships. You have 1. Do you truly believe you can threaten this fleet? For the first time, Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Commander, you're thinking about this wrong. You're not facing one ship. You're facing humanity. And humanity has had a very long time to prepare for this conversation. The transmission ended again. Thexani stared at the blank screen. What did she mean by that? His intelligence reports were clear. Humanity had only achieved spaceflight recently. They had no hidden fleets, no secret weapons. Their technology was primitive compared to established galactic civilizations. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting something strange." "What is it?" "The human ship is approaching, but the readings are getting worse. Our computers can't seem to lock onto it properly. It's like the ship is shifting somehow." Thexani moved to the sensor station and looked at the displays. The readings were indeed chaotic. Sometimes they showed a ship the size of a cruiser. Other times, the mass reading suggested something much larger. Energy outputs fluctuated wildly, sometimes showing levels that should be impossible for a ship that size. "Could they be using some kind of holographic deception?" he asked. "Possibly, sir, but the mass reading suggests something real is there. We're just having trouble determining exactly what it is." Across human space, evacuation procedures continued with mechanical efficiency. Families loaded onto transport ships heading for underground shelters that had been built decades ago. Children, who had practiced evacuation drills since kindergarten, helped their parents pack essential items. Everyone moved quickly but calmly, as if they had been expecting this day. In the military command centers, officers watched status boards showing the progress of civilian evacuations. Phase 7 protocols had been developed after careful study of alien tactics. The galaxy's powers preferred to capture intact colonies rather than destroy them. Emptying the settlements would force them to make harder choices. Meanwhile, the Nemesis continued its approach toward the alien fleet. In its cargo bays, weapon systems powered up that had never been seen by alien eyes. Technologies developed in secret laboratories hidden throughout human space, funded by budgets that officially didn't exist. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, watching the countdown timer. 34 hours and 17 minutes remaining. She hoped the aliens would be smart enough to leave. Despite her confident words, she took no joy in what would happen if they stayed. "Admiral," Lieutenant Martinez called out, "we're receiving multiple transmissions from the alien fleet. They're demanding more detailed scans of our ship." "Ignore them," Chen replied. "Let them wonder. In 34 hours, they'll understand everything they need to know about human capabilities." She looked around the bridge at her crew, young faces showing determination mixed with nervousness. They had trained for this their entire careers, but training was different from the real thing. "Remember," Chen told them, "what we do here will determine humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. We're not just fighting for territory, we're fighting for the right to exist as equals." The crew nodded. They understood the stakes. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, unaware that in 34 hours, the galaxy would learn a new definition of fear. The 36 hours passed like a slow countdown to an execution. Fleet Commander Thexani had spent the time trying to gather more information about the approaching human ship, but every scan attempt had failed. His sensors continued to give impossible readings, and his communications specialists could not intercept any human transmissions. "Sir, the deadline is approaching," his tactical officer reported. 2 minutes remaining." Thexani stood in the center of his bridge, hands clasped behind his back. Around him, 200 ships waited in perfect battle formation. Surely the humans would surrender at the last moment. No single ship could threaten an entire fleet. "Time," the tactical officer announced. The main view screen suddenly flared with light as something massive dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. But this wasn't the small ship they had been tracking. This was something else. "Entirely! What is that?" Thexani whispered. The UES Nemesis appeared on their screens, and immediately every sensor on every ship in the fleet began screaming warnings. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of Thexani's flagship. But size wasn't what made the bridge crew gasp in shock. The ship was wrong. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating patches of absolute darkness against the starfield. Strange angles and curves suggested technologies that followed no known design principles. Parts of the ship seemed to shift and flow, as if the hull itself was somehow liquid. "Tactical report!" Thexani shouted over the alarm sounds. "Sir, our sensors can't get a proper reading. Mass estimates range from impossible to completely impossible. Energy outputs are beyond our measurement capability. And sir—" The tactical officer's voice cracked. "The ship appears to be bending space around itself." Before Thexani could respond, his communications officer called out. "Incoming transmission from the human vessel." Admiral Chen appeared on screen, but now she looked different. Behind her, the bridge of the Nemesis was visible, and it looked like something from a nightmare. Dark surfaces covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Screens showing information in languages that seemed to shift and change, and lights that cast shadows in the wrong directions. "Commander Thexani," Chen said calmly, "your 36 hours have expired. I offered you a chance to leave peacefully. Now I'm going to show you why that was your only smart choice." The transmission ended. "All ships, prepare for battle," Thexani commanded. "Target the human vessel and fire when ready." But before his fleet could act, something impossible happened. Space around the Nemesis began to fold. It started as a slight distortion, like heat shimmer on a hot day. Then the distortion grew stronger, until it looked like reality itself was bending around the human ship. Stars in the background stretched and twisted, their light taking impossible paths through space. "What are they doing?" someone whispered. The answer came in the form of the first weapons fire. But these weren't the bright energy beams or projectiles that galactic warfare was known for. Instead, dark lines seemed to cut through space itself, reaching out from the Nemesis toward 3 of Thexani's cruisers. The beams touched the alien ships and they simply stopped existing, not destroyed, not exploded. They just weren't there anymore, leaving behind regions of space where matter refused to form. Even the light from distant stars seemed to bend around these empty zones, as if reality itself had been damaged. "Impossible," Thexani breathed. "That violates every law of physics." His tactical officer was frantically working at his console. "Sir, I'm reading massive gravitational distortions around the human ship. They're somehow manipulating fundamental forces." "Return fire! All ships focus fire on that vessel!" the fleet responded, launching every weapon they had at the Nemesis. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles streaked across space toward the human ship. But as they approached, the weapons simply vanished into the folded space around the vessel, as if they had never existed at all. "Sir, our weapons aren't reaching the target. They're disappearing into some kind of spatial distortion." Thexani watched in horror as the Nemesis fired again. This time, 6 ships vanished from existence. His fleet began to break formation as panic spread through the ranks. "Fleet command to all ships," he broadcast. "Maintain formation. Focus fire on." He stopped talking as he realized what he was seeing on his tactical display. The human ship wasn't just defending itself and attacking, it was doing something much worse. "Sensor operator, confirm what I'm seeing," Thexani ordered. "Sir, the human vessel appears to be learning. Its defensive patterns are adapting to our weapon frequencies. And sir, it's not just deflecting our attacks anymore, it's absorbing them." As if to prove the point, the dark areas around the Nemesis pulsed with stolen energy from the alien weapons. The ship was somehow converting their attacks into power for its own systems. "This is impossible," Thexani repeated. "No species has this level of technology. The oldest civilizations in the galaxy can't manipulate space-time like this." His communications officer looked up from his station with fear in his eyes. "Sir, I'm intercepting internal communications from our other ships. Several captains are reporting that their crews are experiencing psychological effects from looking at the human vessel." "What kind of effects?" "Nausea, disorientation, and some are reporting that the ship seems to exist in too many dimensions, like their eyes can't properly focus on it." Thexani felt a chill. run down his spine. He had heard stories from the Outer Rim, tales of ancient races that had built things that mortal minds couldn't comprehend. But those were myths, stories told to frighten children. The Nemesis fired a third time, and this attack was different. Instead of the dark beams, the human ship released something that looked like a wave of distorted space. As it passed through, the alien fleet ships didn't disappear. Instead, they began to change. Hulls twisted into impossible shapes. Metal flowed like water. Some vessels simply turned inside out, their interiors becoming their exteriors, while somehow keeping their crews alive to experience the transformation. Admiral Chen to Fleet Commander Thexani, came a calm voice over the communications channel. Thexani struggled to find his voice. What are you? Chen appeared on screen again, but now her image flickered and shifted as if she existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We're human, Commander. But you made a mistake common to most. Galactic civilizations. You assume that because we're new to your community, we're new to the universe. That's impossible. Our records show... Your records show what we wanted you to see, Chen interrupted. Humanity has been watching the galaxy for much longer than you realize. We've been studying your technologies, your tactics, your weaknesses. While you were building pretty ships for parades, we were building things that win wars. Another wave of distorted space pulsed from the Nemesis, and more ships in Thexani's fleet began to twist and change. But their crews remained alive, trapped inside vessels that no longer followed the normal rules of physics. Stop this! Thexani pleaded. We surrender. We'll withdraw from human space. Chen's image smiled, but the expression was wrong, as if her face contained too many angles. Oh, Commander, this isn't about territory anymore. This is about sending a message to the galaxy. You wanted to see what humans are capable of when threatened. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Now you're going to show them. The space around the Nemesis pulsed one final time, and suddenly every ship in the alien fleet found itself frozen in place. Not by force fields or tractor beams, but by the manipulation of time itself. They could think, they could see, but they couldn't move or speak. You're going home now, Chen announced. All of you. You're going to tell the Galactic Council exactly what you saw here. You're going to show them the recordings of what human technology can do, and you're going to make sure they understand that this was us being merciful. The frozen fleet began to move, but not under their own power. The Nemesis was somehow pushing them through space, back toward galactic civilization. Ships that had been twisted and distorted slowly returned to normal shapes. Their crews unharmed but forever changed by what they had witnessed. Remember, Commander. Chen's voice followed them as they were pushed away. Humanity tried to coexist, peacefully. But if you force us to war, we'll show the galaxy technologies that will make today look like a gentle demonstration. As the alien fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, the Nemesis remained alone in human space. Its impossible hull reflected starlight normally once again, as if the demonstration of reality-bending power had never happened. But across the galaxy, 200 ship crews carried with them the memory of the day they learned that humans didn't just fight wars. They rewrote the rules of existence itself. Fleet Commander Thexani sat in the medical bay of the Eternal Dominion, staring at his hands as they shook uncontrollably. The ship's doctor had given him medication for shock, but nothing could erase what he had seen. Around him, crew members from across the fleet underwent similar treatment for what the medical staff called reality dissociation syndrome. Commander, his tactical officer entered the medical bay, moving slowly like an old man despite being young. We've completed our analysis of the sensor data from the engagement. Thexani looked up with haunted eyes. And? Sir, everything we thought we knew about humanity was wrong. The evidence suggests they've been deceiving the galaxy for over a... Century. The tactical officer activated a portable hologram projector. Images appeared showing human ship designs from the past 60 years. To untrained eyes, they looked like the simple, functional vessels of a developing species. But now, with the knowledge of what the Nemesis could do, the designs revealed hidden sophistication. "Look at these hull configurations," the officer pointed out. "We always assumed humans built crude, boxy ships because they lacked artistic sensibility. But these shapes are actually optimized for functions we don't understand. Every angle, every surface is designed for purposes we never recognized." Thexani studied the images with growing dread. They were hiding their true capabilities from the beginning. "It gets worse, sir. Our intelligence division has been reviewing intercepted human communications from the past decade. We always dismissed them as routine civilian chatter, but when analyzed with current knowledge, they reveal a massive military preparation program. More images appeared. Construction projects that had been reported as civilian infrastructure, mining operations in remote systems that had supposedly been abandoned, research stations that claimed to study stellar phenomena. They've been building a war machine in secret, the tactical officer continued. But not just ships and weapons. They've been conducting research that violates multiple galactic treaties on dangerous technologies. Thexani felt sick. What kind of research? Based on what we witnessed, they've been experimenting with fundamental force manipulation, space-time distortion, and dimensional physics. Technologies that the Galactic Council banned centuries ago because they're too dangerous. The hologram showed technical readouts that made no sense to conventional science. Energy patterns that suggested matter conversion beyond anything previously achieved. Gravitational signatures that indicated artificial black hole generation. And worst of all, quantum fluctuations that suggested experiments with the basic structure of reality itself. "How long have they been doing this?" Thexani asked. "The earliest evidence we can find dates back 120 years, sir. Right around the time they achieved faster-than-light travel. But here's the truly terrifying part. We think they achieved FTL much earlier than they claimed. They may have been hiding in dark space, watching galactic civilization for decades, before announcing their presence." Thexani stood up slowly, his legs still unsteady. "Are you telling me that humans have been spying on us this entire time? It would explain how they knew exactly how to manipulate our sensors, sir, and how they seemed to anticipate our tactical responses. The Nemesis didn't just have advanced weapons. It had been specifically designed to counter galactic military doctrine." The implications hit Thexani like a physical blow. Every military exercise, every fleet movement, every tactical development of the past 60 years, the humans had been watching and learning. They had built their entire military strategy around defeating civilizations that thought they were superior. "Show me the technical analysis of their weapons," Thexani ordered. The hologram changed to display the sensor readings from the battle. But even looking at the data made several crew members nauseous, as if the information itself was somehow wrong. "Sir, our best scientists can't explain how their weapons function. The dark beams that erased our ships don't appear to be energy or matter. They seem to be manipulations of space-time itself, creating regions where matter simply cannot exist. And their defenses? Even more impossible. They appear to be using controlled micro-singularities to bend space around their ship. Our weapons weren't just deflected. They were redirected into parallel dimensions where they couldn't affect normal space." Thexani sat back down heavily. "What about the psychological effects? Why did looking at their ship cause mental distress?" The tactical officer hesitated. "Sir, this is just a theory, but we think their ship exists partially outside normal three-dimensional space. When our crews tried to observe it, their minds couldn't process what they were seeing. It's like trying to understand a four-dimensional object while trapped in 3 dimensions. That's impossible. No species has ever achieved dimensional transcendence. No. Known species, sir, but humans may have been working on this technology for over a century in complete secrecy." A new voice interrupted their conversation. "Commander Thexani, You need to see this. The ship's communications officer entered, carrying a datapad with trembling hands. Sir, we've been monitoring galactic news networks. The humans have released a statement. Thexani took the pad and read the message. It was simple and direct. The Galactic Council sent a fleet to threaten human space. That fleet has been returned unharmed to serve as a message. Humanity seeks only peaceful coexistence with all species. However, any future aggression will be met with escalating responses. We hope this demonstration has clarified our position. Admiral Sarah Chen, United Earth Space Command. They're calling it a demonstration, Thexani whispered. What we saw was them holding back. The communications officer nodded grimly. Sir, there's more. We've intercepted communications between human ships across their territory. Based on the technical language being used, the Nemesis appears to be just their first generation of these advanced vessels. First generation? They're discussing modifications and improvements, sir. Whatever we face today, they're already building. Something more advanced. Thexani looked around the medical bay at his traumatized crew. These were experienced soldiers who had seen combat across the galaxy. But 15 minutes with human technology had reduced them to shattered beings who jumped at shadows. What? About the artificial intelligence? He asked quietly. Excuse me, sir? During the battle, I had the feeling we weren't just fighting a ship. There was something else controlling those weapons. Something that was learning and adapting faster than any organic mind could manage. The tactical officer checked his datapad. Now that you mention it, sir, our computers detected quantum processing, signatures during the engagement. The computational power involved was beyond anything in our databases. They've built an artificial intelligence, Thexani realized, but not like the simple automation we use. Something that can think and learn and adapt in real time. If that's true, sir, then every battle against human forces will make them stronger. Their AI will study our tactics and develop countermeasures. Thexani stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was continuing its preparation for a war they claimed not to want. Building weapons that could rewrite physics itself. Training artificial minds that could outthink entire galactic civilizations. Send a priority. Message to the Galactic Council, he ordered. Tell them we need an emergency session, and tell them... He paused, trying to find words for the impossible. Tell them that everything we thought we knew about warfare just became obsolete. What should we recommend, sir? Thexani was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. How do you fight an enemy that can erase you from existence? How do you negotiate with a species that's been manipulating you for over a century? How do you trust beings who can build machines that exist in multiple dimensions? He turned back to his crew. But I know one thing. If the galaxy chooses to continue this conflict, we're not fighting humans. We're fighting something that has transcended the normal limits of physics itself. And, sir, they've had over a century to prepare for this war. While we were playing politics and building parade fleets, they were solving the fundamental problems of existence itself. Outside the viewport, stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the apex predators of the galaxy had just discovered they were no longer at the top of the food chain. The humans had been patient, they had been watching, and they had been preparing for this moment since the day they first looked up at the stars and decided they would not be conquered. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of receiving Fleet Commander Thexani's report. Representatives from across the galaxy arrived at Concordia Prime in a state of barely controlled panic. The massive station, which had seemed so impressive just days ago, now felt fragile and exposed. Council leader Thymos called for order as the great chamber filled with frightened voices speaking in dozens of languages. Her blue skin had lost its normal, vibrant color, showing the stress patterns that marked extreme distress in her species. "We have all seen the recordings," she announced, her voice carrying through the translation devices. "We must now decide how to respond to this development." Ambassador Veltar stood at his platform, but his usual confidence was gone. His insect-like features twitched nervously as he spoke. The footage shows weapons that should not exist. Technologies that violate the basic laws of physics. How do we fight an enemy that can erase matter from existence? Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. On the main holographic display, the recording played again. The impossible sight of ships simply ceasing to exist, of space itself bending around the human vessel, of reality being rewritten according to human will. Representative Quinn of the Stellar Federation stood up, his metallic voice filled with disbelief. Our greatest scientists have reviewed this data. They confirm that what we are seeing is genuine. The humans have achieved technologies that were thought to be theoretically impossible. How? Demanded Council Leader Thamos. How did a species that achieved space flight 60 years ago develop capabilities that exceed our oldest civilizations? Fleet Commander Thexani, who had been brought to testify, stepped forward. His haunted expression told the story better than words. Because they didn't achieve spaceflight 60 years ago. Our intelligence was wrong. They've been lying to us from the beginning. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions and accusations, while others demanded immediate military action. Thymos called for silence repeatedly before. Order was restored. Explain, she commanded. Thexani activated a holographic display showing the timeline of human expansion. We now believe humans achieved faster-than-light travel over a century ago. They spent decades in dark space, studying our civilizations, learning our technologies, and developing countermeasures for everything we might use against them. That's impossible, protested Ambassador Veltar. We would have detected their presence. Would we? Thexani replied grimly. They demonstrated the ability to bend space around their ships. If they've had that technology for decades, they could have been anywhere, watching everything, and we would never have known. The implications settled over the chamber like a shroud. Every military secret, every technological development, every strategic plan of the past century. The humans might have witnessed it all. Representative Zephyri of the Crystal Dominion spoke in her chiming voice. What do our military advisors recommend? General Carathis, the Council's chief military strategist, stood slowly. His forearms gestured helplessly as he spoke. Honored representatives, I must be honest. We have no strategy for fighting an enemy with these capabilities. Our weapons cannot reach them. Our defenses cannot stop them. And worse, we suspect that what we witnessed was merely a demonstration. A demonstration? Thymos asked. Admiral Chen herself called it that in her statement. She claimed this was them being merciful. If true, then the human military possesses even more devastating capabilities that they chose not to reveal. The chamber fell silent as this sank in. If the reality-warping weapons were considered restrained, what could humans do when truly threatened? There is something else, Thexani added quietly. During the engagement, I had the distinct impression that we were not fighting a human crew. The responses were too fast, too perfect. I believe they have created an artificial intelligence that surpasses anything in our databases. Artificial intelligence is restricted technology, Ambassador Veltar protested. Restricted by galactic law, Thexani replied. But humans have shown they don't consider themselves bound by our laws. And if their AI has been studying galactic military doctrine for decades, it would know every tactic we might use before we think of them ourselves. Council Leader Thymos looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of the galaxy's most powerful representatives. What are our options? General Carathis consulted his data pad. We could attempt to mobilize every military asset in the galaxy, pool our resources, and attack human space with overwhelming force. And the likelihood of success? Unknown, but probably minimal. If their single ship could disable a fleet of 200 vessels, they likely have defenses we cannot overcome. More importantly, such an action might provoke them to reveal even more dangerous capabilities. What about diplomatic solutions? Asked Representative Quinn. Difficult, admitted Thymos. How do you negotiate with a species that has been manipulating the entire galactic community for over a century? How can we trust anything they say when their very presence here is based on deception? A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Perhaps the question is not how we fight them, but whether we should. All eyes turned to Elder Vasti, the oldest member of the council. Her ancient species had witnessed the rise and fall of multiple galactic civilizations, and her words carried tremendous weight. Explain, Elder, Thymos requested. Vasti moved slowly to the speaker's platform. Her translucent form shimmered as she spoke. In my long life, I have seen many species rise to power through military might. They conquer, they dominate, and eventually they fall when someone stronger appears. But humans have done something different. She paused, letting her words sink in. They achieved ultimate military superiority and chose not to use it for conquest. They could have revealed these capabilities decades ago and conquered the galaxy while we were unprepared. Instead, they waited until we threatened them, demonstrated their power without unnecessary destruction, and then offered peace. You're suggesting we should accept their terms? Ambassador Veltar asked incredulously. I'm suggesting we recognize reality, Vasti replied. Humans have become the apex predators of the galaxy. We can either accept this new reality and learn to coexist, or we can fight a war we cannot win against an enemy that doesn't actually want to conquer us. The chamber buzzed with discussion. The idea of accepting human supremacy was difficult for species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia, but the alternative was unthinkable. There is one more consideration, General Carathis added. Our intelligence suggests that humans are continuing to advance their technology. Whatever we faced was described as their first generation of advanced vessels. If we delay too long, any chance of successful resistance may disappear entirely. Council. Leader Thymos stood and addressed the assembly. The choice before us is simple but terrible. We can attempt to fight a war against an enemy with impossible weapons and lose everything. Or we can accept a new galactic order where humans hold ultimate power but claim to want peaceful coexistence. What guarantee do we have that they will honor their claims of peaceful intent? Demanded Ambassador Veltar. What guarantee do we have that we would survive if they decided not to? Thymos replied, the vote, when it came, was not close. Faced with the choice between certain destruction and uncertain peace, the galaxy chose survival. The resolution passed with only 3 dissenting votes. The Galactic Council recognizes the Yi, or sovereign rights of humanity over their claimed territories, and agrees to peaceful coexistence under the terms proposed by Admiral Chen. Light years away, Admiral Chen received the news aboard the Nemesis. The great ship drifted silently through space, its impossible technologies powered down, but ready to activate at a moment's notice. The vote was unanimous, Admiral. Lieutenant Martinez reported. Well, almost unanimous. 3 species voted to continue fighting. Chen nodded. And the others? They've agreed to formal recognition of human territories and a non-aggression pact. They're also requesting diplomatic meetings to establish new trade relationships. Chen smiled, but there was no triumph in her expression. Send a message to Earth Command. Phase 8 is complete. We have achieved our strategic objectives without the need for additional demonstrations. What about the 3 species that voted for continued conflict? Monitor them closely. If they attempt any aggressive actions, we'll provide them with a more detailed explanation of human capabilities. She turned to look out at the stars, where the lights of 1,000 civilizations twinkled in the darkness. Each one now knew that humanity had become something beyond their understanding. Something that could rewrite the laws of physics and delete ships from existence. But most importantly, they now knew that humanity had chosen to use this ultimate power with restraint. Signal the fleet, Chen ordered. Begin Phase 9. Time to show the galaxy what humans can build when we're not preparing for war. Across human space, construction ships began emerging from hidden bases. Not warships this time, but vessels, designed to build and create. Technologies that could terraform worlds in decades, generate unlimited clean energy, and solve the resource problems that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia.